Hello everybody and welcome back to another new video. It's me, Will, and this is going to be part 2 of my collaboration video with Dave out of the Dark Stuff channel, where we're going to be ranking our top 10 albums of 1995. So part 1 of this video with our top 10 from number 10 to number 6 are going to be posted right now on Dave's channel, The Dark Stuff. I'll put a link here in the description so you can check out that video first. And after you're done with that one, come back to this video and watch our top 5 albums of 1995. Again, great to work with Dave on this video again. This is our 3rd year in a row where we're doing our top 10 albums or our top albums from a specific year in the 90s. Back in 2023, we did 1993. Last year, we did 1994. And of course, this year, we're doing 1995. Yeah, a great year in music. So let's go ahead and check it out. All right, so we are now back with part 2 of our top 10 albums of 1995. And we'll start off with you, Dave, with your number 5.
All right, my number 5. This one is not one of the unpredictable ones, okay, that Guided by Voices, Alien Lanes is on my list. It's my number 5, and I love this album. I mean, Guided by Voices was just on fire at this period. It was B1000 was before this, then Alien Lanes. And I mean, every record they started coming up with every single year was like stellar. I think this was their absolute best period. I don't think it's super controversial to say that. I think this is when they got their national audience and retained it. Motor Away was a big song off this.
Game of Pricks, I had this
Game
one
of
as
Pricks.
the number 1 song in Spotify from them.
Yeah, Game of Pricks. Let's see here. The text is really small in this CD. It's hard for me to see. My Valuable Hunting Knife. I think this has.
I wrote down My Son Cool, A Good Flying Bird, and Motor Away as my favorite songs.
Motor Away. Yeah, Motor Away. My Valuable Hunting Knife. This one doesn't have I'm a Scientist. That's on the previous one.
Yeah, that's the previous one.
Yeah,
B1000.
Pretty much every song is great. I didn't think this was as good as B1000. I know a lot of people who my era, peers of mine, my kind of age, were like, yeah, B1000 was awesome, but Alien Lanes is better. And I've never totally thought that. I love Alien Lanes. It's obviously my number 5 of 1995, but I don't think it's better than B1000. I think B1000 is better.
I thought that they were both very in the similar level. It's in a similar kind of vibe as well in this record.
Yeah,
which is kind of hard to describe by showing someone just one song. This is the kind of record where you have to listen to the full thing to be able to understand it or to grasp it.
Yeah,
because the songs are great, but they do feel a little bit unfinished if you only listen to one, for example. Because some of the songs are just like a single verse, and
there's some that are like 20 seconds or 27 seconds.
I mean, they're very short, and they feed from each other, right? They kind of they flow together. So it's a better experience to listen to it for the full album from start to finish.
Yeah, and it's not super long. I mean, but Guided by Voices at this period were very much into little like albums or like collages or whatever.
Yeah,
and they're just whether a song finishes or whatever, they just sort of stick it in, find a good flow, and then release the album. And
28 songs, 41 minutes.
Yeah,
love it.
That's pretty great. But I think by the time they got to the tour, Matt Sweeney, who'd been in Chavez, was playing with Guided by Voices at this time. On the tour. So they used to have kind of a lot of weird little lineups, but this was still the quote unquote classic GBV lineup.
I just wished like that they had at least one song where it would be a little bit longer with like a full chorus and verse, like making an actual hit in the radio or something. But I guess you could call Game of Pricks a little bit of that, because that one was a little bit big song.
I mean, I think by the time they got to like Under the Bushes, Under the Stars, they were starting to do that more. There were less song snippets. Yeah. And there were more actual, like, full songs and stuff. And then the album they did with Rick Ocasek was completely like a polished pop record.
Which makes sense coming in from someone like Rick. Yeah.
And it had Teenage FBI. That was one of their best songs and stuff. But
all right. My number 5 of 95 is Jawbreaker, Dear You. I wanted to have it on vinyl, but I haven't bought it yet. This has a really cool repress as well on vinyl that I need to get. Dear You, and it came out on DGC Records. First record from Jawbreaker on a major label, which was a huge deal for the scene where these guys came from. These guys came in from the Bay Area punk rock scene. It was the biggest sin. The thing that you don't do is to move on to a major label.
Yeah, they were the biggest sellouts next to Green Day because they were
the biggest
angry at Green Day.
sellouts after Green Day. They lost a lot of their fans, or their older fans, from moving into a major label. And the thing is that they said so many times before that they would never go into a major label. They would not go to a major label, and eventually they did, and they move on to DGC. And this one was
I think
also
that's
produced.
is saying you'll never do it.
Yeah,
is the thing that causes you problems.
yeah. I think a lot of people were upset about
But
that.
if you just were like, yeah, I don't think it'll happen. I don't know, whatever. We're not interested or whatever. And then it happens and you can be like, well, we weren't interested, but then we got a good, whatever. Because Kurt Cobain used to say, we'll never sign to a major. And then they did also.
Yeah.
But there wasn't as much of a backlash because they didn't have as long a career beforehand.
Yeah.
Whereas Jawbreaker had more earlier records. And I was texting you the other day telling you that I don't remember why, but I hated this record when it came out. And it wasn't about them being on a major label. I didn't give a shit about that. I remember listening to it and being like, because 24-Hour Revenge Therapy is one of my favorite records. It was on our countdown a couple of years ago. I love that album. And then when this came out, I just put it on. It was instantly like, ugh, what is wrong? And I don't know. Listening to it now, prepping for this video, I loved it. And I was like, why did I hate this so much? I have no fucking idea.
Maybe you were listening to something else.
It's a little bit more polished, but I think my issue was his voice because I knew he had throat issues at that point.
His voice.
And he changed how he sang. And I think that for me was the turnoff. And I was like, oh, fuck these guys. Like, this sucks.
Yeah.
And I spent like the next 20 years hating this album until I gave it another listen. And I was like, this is really good. I don't know why I hated it so much.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too. That he did change his voice for this record. I think he was trying to make it more accessible, I guess, to most people out there, because his voice before this record was very raspy, very.
Oh, I thought it was because he had a throat issue. Like he had to change his singing. Oh, okay.
He did. I think he did. But for this one, he sounds a little bit different. He still has a very distinctive voice in this record, but he sounds different than the prior records. But to me, it doesn't make any difference. It sounds great. The guitars in this one are excellent. It is produced by Rob Cavallo, who is also a guitar nerd. So he was, I guess, when they were recording this record with Blake, they were playing around with different sounds on the guitar, and the guitar effects are amazing in this record, especially in songs like Jet Black and Fireman. And I also wrote down Save Your Generation. I guess you could call this also a pop punk record, maybe a little bit of emo in here as well. It's melodic punk, but on the darker end of the theme of the whole record. It's not as accessible as other bands like Green Day, Dookie. I guess they were trying to do something a little bit more accessible, but their overall sound wasn't as melodic as Green Day stuff was.
And I feel like, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but the general attitude was pretty negative at first when this album came out.
Yeah, many people didn't like this.
There's that documentary about Jawbreaker that came out about 10 years ago.
I watched that, yeah.
More. And everyone in it is talking about how much they love Dear You. And I was like, well, you didn't love it at the time.
They didn't like it back then. This record essentially broke up the band because it was not a commercial success. It was a commercial failure. And they lost a lot of their...
If you sell out and it doesn't work, then what do you do?
Yeah, you're toast. Yeah.
Right.
So they
not that I think they sold out. This is a great record.
They alienated their older fans. They didn't get new fans from this record. So essentially they were done after this. They were fighting too much. So this record broke up. The band broke up after this record.
Okay, my number 4 is probably, I know I said that Poster Children in the previous video was maybe the most obscure. This might be more obscure. I'm not sure. The Blue Moods of Spain by Spain. This album came out on Restless Records in 1995, and it fucking blew me away. I mean, I love this album. It's so unique sounding to me.
Yeah.
And first of all, Spain is Josh Hayden. Josh Hayden is the son of Charlie Hayden, who is a jazz legend. He used to play all throughout the 60s and 70s and 80s and whatever. And his sisters, Petra Hayden and Tanya Hayden, I believe, are in the band That Dog.
Oh yeah.
and that was their thing that was going on around this time. But Spain is just singular among all these other bands. It's slow, kind of brooding jazz mixed with a light kind of indie rock because there is guitars and bass, but it's got a jazz feel. I
Yeah.
mean, there's no question about it. And if you're thinking you might not have ever heard this record, you might be right. But Johnny Cash, on one of his final records that he did with Rick Rubin, covered the song Spiritual, which is the final song on this album. It says Jesus a lot in the song if you've heard it.
Yeah.
And so you may recognize that because Johnny Cash did an amazing version of the song.
Part of his American recordings.
Right,
Like
part
you
of the
said, yeah.
American Recording Series. And I remember I did an interview with Josh Hayden probably like 15 years ago or more. I remember asking him what it was like to have Johnny Cash do one of your songs, and he just like, it's unbelievable.
I
Like
bet.
I couldn't believe he was singing it. But this is a real smooth,
Yeah.
beautiful album. It's not for if you're going out for a party. It's not
Yeah,
for
that's what
driving probably a
that's what
fast
I was
car.
gonna say. You have to
Yeah,
be in the right mood to listen to
you
this
got to be in the
record,
right
right?
mood
Because
because
it's
they have
just so
songs like
slow.
"It's
Mm.
So True," "Her Used to Been," "World of Blue," "I Lied." I mean, all of them are just great, moody, beautiful songs. And Spain has done other records after this, and they were good, but
Mhm.
they've never touched "Blue Moods of Spain," in my opinion.
Yeah, I didn't not know anything about this band. I didn't know anything about this record before you mentioned it. So it was a brand new listen to me. Like you said, slow record, very mellow, but I enjoyed it. Nice record. I liked the way that he sings and the way that every single word, every single syllable is deliberate. He
Mhm.
pronounces everything so well, so slow, so clear. So you can hear every single word, almost like reading out of a poetry book or something. Um, his voice also reminded me a little bit of Jacob Dylan from the Wallflowers.
Oh, interesting. I hadn't thought of
Kind of
that.
has that kind of tone, I guess. But I liked it. You know, it's a really nice mellow record. I wrote down Untitled Number One, which is also their most popular song in Spotify.
Oh, wow, I
And
didn't know that.
yeah, and I lied.
Okay, that's a good one. I knew that one. That was a popular one. I
So I
like
was
"It's So
gonna,
True." That's the opening track.
yeah.
Um, and then, of course, "Spiritual." I did like it. I mean, I'm not a religious person, but, so
Mhm.
the religious overtones are like, "Oh, okay," but I don't care. It's a beautiful song, and Johnny
Yeah.
Cash does it really nicely too.
Yeah, I remember
Um,
before I listened to that record, you told me that one of their songs was covered by Johnny Cash, and I
yeah,
was like, I wonder which one. And then I listened to it. Okay, it's gotta be this
it's
one
gotta be
because
this one, yeah.
Johnny Cash was just so
Johnny Cash
religious.
very much liked religious music,
Yeah.
and I love that song.
All right, my number four of '95, The Smashing Pumpkins, "Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness." Huge fan of the Pumpkins. Still have my original one with the. Remember those
The big
the
boxes, yes, the
fat
double
jewel
CDs.
cases from back in the '90s? I like those ones better because eventually they changed them to the single ones where you had to open the back tray to get the
Yeah,
second
I don't
disc.
like those where they flip
They
back and
always break, so I
yeah,
always
the
kept
tray
my
breaks.
original one. I changed the CDs because I wore out the original CDs. They were so scratched.
And you put them back in that case?
I put them back in the original case. This case is indestructible. It will survive everything.
Oh god,
Um,
that's funny.
yeah, huge record, probably the most ubiquitous record from the '90s. This record was everywhere. Had 5 hit singles out of this album, so
Yeah.
everybody knows this one. Had Zero, Bullet with Butterfly Wings, had 1979, Tonight Tonight. When this record came out, I was similar to with Garbage, but maybe not as much with the visual part. I was more obsessed with the music from this record, the way that Billy Corgan sounded when he sang, which also makes it very appealing towards angsty teenagers, I guess, especially
Oh,
with
sure.
songs like Bullet with Butterfly Wings. It kind of hit that special spot with any teenager out there. Um, 28 tracks in 2 discs on CD, 121 minutes, 2 hours of music from the Smashing Pumpkins. You would think, and I even myself, I thought that this record was maybe too long, but I just listened to this one. I popped it out in my car and I listened to it yesterday. I did not skip many songs in this one, especially on the
There's a
first.
new expanded edition that has
Oh
even
yeah,
more songs.
that one maybe, maybe on the expanded edition. But this version, I think it doesn't have many skips, especially on the first disc, which is also titled "Dawn to Dusk." There are a couple of skips in the second disc, especially near the end, Twilight to Starlight. Maybe a little bit long, a few couple songs that are too long, but the songs are still great. I think
Yeah.
this is Pumpkins and their peak as well. The writing from Billy Corgan was excellent in this record. This is when they were trying different sounds. So the first couple of records, Gish and Siamese Dream, they were a little bit more harder rock sounds. And this one, they were slowing down a little bit, and they were trying different sounds. They were playing a couple of different ballads. They were adding some strings as well, especially with Tonight Tonight. But yeah, overall, it's a fantastic record. And like I said, I didn't skip almost any songs in this record when I listened to it yesterday.
It's weird, so
Mhm.
my relationship with the Pumpkins is different than yours.
Yeah,
Because for me, I saw them 4 times between 1991 and 1992 in their first year of
first couple
existence.
of tours. Yeah.
They sucked
Oh,
live.
really?
They were terrible.
Uh-huh.
I saw them at what Billy Corgan told me was their worst show ever, that they almost broke up after the show. That was in Omaha, Nebraska in
Yeah,
September of '91 at a place called the Ranch Bowl, and 311, who was just a local Omaha band at the time,
yeah.
opened. They drew a big crowd, and then everybody left after 311, and the Pumpkins played in front of about 15 people, and they sucked. They were terrible. And when I met Billy Corgan a couple months later in Madison, he said that was our worst show ever.
Really?
Like, I was like, "Yeah, I saw you guys at the Ranch Bowl," and he was like, "Oh god," But, I saw them 4 times in the first year of their
Mhm,
existence, and they just weren't a great live band.
mhm,
Gish is stellar, 10 out of
mhm.
10, 5 out of 5, whatever. That album
Excellent record,
is
yeah.
so amazing, and Billy Corgan's guitar playing on that record, and I'm blanking on the drummer's name, but,
Jimmy Chamberlain.
Jimmy Chamberlain are so perfect on that record. They're
Yep.
amazing, and that'll always be among my favorite records. Pisces Iscariot, which is, the
The
B-sides and
B-sides
whatever,
album.
I
Yeah.
love it. But when they get to the 3rd album, the next album, and then Melancholy, and then
Yeah.
that's when I started, like, losing a little interest. Like, I like the singles,
Yeah.
but I couldn't get into the deep album cuts because it was too much. And so
Mhm.
for me, this one wouldn't have made my top. I mean,
Uh-huh.
again, the singles you said are great, 1979, Tonight Tonight. I mean, they had some good singles, but
Yeah.
at this point, I was like, "Corgan, dude, you're off the reservation with this double album and whatever you're do" I mean, I was not feeling it.
And I
But
think the labels were essentially letting them do whatever they wanted at that point because they had a big hit back in with the Siamese Dream record.
right after Siamese Dream did so well, I don't
Yeah.
think anyone tried to guide them into doing anything they didn't wanna do.
But this record had 5 singles. I think 4 of them were major hits, Butterfly Wings, 1979. Tonight Tonight won the MTV VMA that year for best music video, and well deserved. The music videos in this record are amazing. This was
Well,
back
this might be their
when
biggest selling album. I mean, it was a massive, massive,
it was a
massive
huge
record.
record.
I mean, I remember this completely. And
Yeah.
this is one that you seemed unprepared for me to have selected. You were surprised by this
Yeah, this
choice.
was a big surprise because I didn't know you were a big fan of the Jayhawks. It
Yeah, it's
seems
the
like
Jayhawks,
out
Tomorrow
of
the
your style.
Greengrass.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this album. I loved Hollywood Town Hall that came out before it.
Mhm.
This was the last album of the original Jayhawks because the songwriting duo split after this. They came back, but for a couple of records, Gary Loris kind of ran the band as the only singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
The other guy took some time out. But God, I love this album. To me, this is the beginning of my interest in Americana or alt country
Alt
or
country.
whatever. I
Mm.
mean, you know, there was Uncle Tupelo, but I didn't really get into Uncle Tupelo until they were already over. It's like kind of when I got into Wilco and Sunvolt and stuff. But I always kind of liked the Jayhawks a little bit better
Mhm.
because I just think they were so much more melodic and their songs were just so
So catchy.
epic
Yeah.
and like driving and moving, and the
Yeah.
lyrics are really good, and I mean everything on here is really great. I love this fucking record, and it's like it's a hard sell. I know the
Yeah.
Jayhawks have been always on the periphery of, like, popularity, but they've never really hit it
Yeah.
because I think their record, like, if Tomorrow the Green Grass came out last year in 2024, when you had big records by Waxahachie and MJ Lenderman and all this Americana stuff that's
Hooray
coming
for the
out,
Riff Raff and all
right,
those.
Hooray for the Riff Raff, it would've done well. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's on par with that stuff.
I think
Uh,
so.
maybe 90s production would, so it wouldn't be the same. But I mean, there's a lot more interest in Americana and alt country now than there
Mm.
was in their time.
Yeah, it
And
was
I
not
think
the
that's
time
why,
for, I guess, that kind of alt country, because I think more people were listening to bands like the Pumpkins, like we mentioned before, and Nirvana, those kind of bands. Maybe it was the peak of alternative rock music, not so much alternative country. But this was an excellent record. I never listened to
yeah, I
this
mean,
record from front to back, and it is
it might
really,
not have
really
been,
good.
it might not have been the right time for
Yeah,
this kind of music, commercially or whatever.
yeah.
But man, it is just such a good album, and I can sing along to like every song. You wouldn't want to be here because my voice is terrible.
Yeah,
But
it's a good sing-along album for sure, especially
yeah,
with
produced by George Strakoulias, who
yeah.
used to be the number 2 guy at American Recordings. He was the number 2 to Rick Rubin.
Mhm.
And they were on the American Recordings label. Um, and when you think of the great bands from Minneapolis from the 80s, I include Jayhawks as one of them. So you
Yeah.
got the Replacements, Husker Du, Soul Asylum, Jayhawks, Babes in Toyland. Those are your to me, the major Twin Cities bands from the 80s. And the Jayhawks kind of got there on the end, but they'd recorded for Twin Tone, and they eventually went to a major label, but they might have missed that wave when like Soul Asylum and the Replacements hit. But I think they're on that level, and their songwriting is on that level as well, in my opinion.
I was surprised to
Beautiful lyrics.
hear that the Jayhawks, not from Kansas, just from
Yeah, no.
they're from Minneapolis. From
Yeah,
Twin
they're not
Cities.
from Kansas.
Yeah, I don't think it should be allowed because I lived for 5 years in Kansas. I went to the University of Kansas, so to me the Jayhawks should be from Kansas, but still a great name. I enjoyed this record a lot. Like you said, so catchy, so melodic. The voice and this, is it one singer that sings in here? Or
There's
is it
two.
multiple?
There's two singers.
Two singers.
But Gary
The
Loris is the
voice-
primary singer. Yeah.
The vocals in Blue, gosh, so gorgeous.
Oh yeah, that's a beautiful song.
gorgeous track, and not an easy song to sing for sure.
No.
But like you said, a very sing-along kind of album, like especially side A to me was nearly perfect. I wrote down here, I Would Run Away, Blue, Miss Williams guitar, and there's a cover, I think.
Nothing Left to Borrow is really good. The cover is
Bad Time.
yeah, Bad Time.
It's
to Be
a
in Love,
Grand
right?
Funk cover.
Was it Grand
I
Funk?
really like that one too.
Yeah.
I haven't heard the original one, but I really enjoyed this one. And Anne Jane is a really beautiful ballad as well. All right, my number 3 pick for 95 is a record we already talked about, the Muffs, Blonder and
Yeah, on
Blonder.
the older by the way, our only overlap.
The
in
only
entire
overlap for this year's top 10. Blonder and Blonder came out on Reprise Records, and we already talked about this one, so I'll just say, if you pick up something, or if you pick up this record, make sure that you pick up the new repress that came out on CD and vinyl. But I like the CD version better because it has, I think, 7 extra tracks. 2 of them were B-sides that came out on the singles, and the last 5 are demo versions of different tracks, which are fantastic. Definitely worth a listen if you are a Muffs fan.
She does good demos.
Yeah, she does really cool demos, so you can hear how some of the records or some of the songs were written for this album. So yeah, I think we said a lot about the Muffs before, so I'll cut it out. I'll cut it there. Just an excellent record, super melodic, fast-paced punk rock. Definitely check it out. Blonder and Blonder, definitely one of their best records that they ever made.
Yeah, and like we said in the other video, because I had it in my top 10 as well. It was my number. I can't even remember what it was.
Yours was number 6.
Number 6.
Yeah.
Is that it's just criminal that this album wasn't a hit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, criminal. And that the best known song by the Muffs is their cover of "Kids in America."
Yeah, and the label was
but...
really pushing that song. I think they even included that song in the Clueless soundtrack.
And that's their best known song. To people who don't know the Muffs, that's their best known song.
That's their best known song. They actually make an appearance in the movie as well. I don't know if you've seen that movie recently.
I've never seen it.
They are playing in the scene. I think when they're playing a prom, is the band that's playing in the background.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah,
I haven't watched that movie in probably 25 years, but it was good at the time.
Yeah, it's a really good movie, worth checking out for sure. And then they had a really cool music video for Sad Tomorrow, which was the single for this record. It had a few plays, I guess, on MTV, but it didn't go very far. But
I never saw it until the era of YouTube.
Oh, really?
And I was a fan of the Muffs, wanting to see a video on MTV, but I never even saw them on 120 Minutes or anything. Like, I just never saw them.
Criminal for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're down to the top 2, and my number 2 is the Flaming Lips, Clouds Taste Metallic. Now, I know there are a lot of people, especially in the vinyl community, to whom the Flaming Lips, starting in the late 90s in their Yoshimi and, that sort of period, their symphonic pop period, that they think that's the best of the Flaming Lips. I don't. Mine is Hit to Death in the Future Head, Transmissions from the
Transmission.
Satellite Heart, and Clouds Taste Metallic. Those 3 in a row are the
Mhm.
most epic trio of guitar rock albums of the 90s, in my opinion. I love every single song on this. I think this is the version of the Flaming Lips that I wish could have continued. None of these other 3 guys on the cover. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Steven Drozd is still there. Michael Ivins has quit. The guitar player who's left after this record, the African American guy in the back there, he quit after this record. This was, to me, the best Lips lineup. I think Transmissions from the Satellite Heart might be a pinch better, but this album is just so amazing. I mean, God, every song is good. Wayne's performance. I love the Flaming Lips as a guitar band,
Mhm.
and I don't think Wayne Coyne has worn a guitar on stage in 25 years.
Yeah, I
He's
never
the
got
exciting frontman
into
guy.
the Yashimi sound of the Flaming Lips. I definitely like this one a lot better, and the one that from the previous year or Satellites.
Yeah,
What's it called?
Transmissions from the Satellite Heart. Yeah.
That one a lot better than the newer stuff. It was the first listen to me as well. I've heard some of the hits or some of the singles from this one before, like this here Giraffe. I think I've listened to it
Mr. Giraffe.
before.
Bad Days was also a single, I
Bad
think, and
Days, but
Mr.
it was the
Giraffe was
first
a
time
single.
listening to the full record. Really like this one as well. Like you said, that the voice, Wayne's voice in this record is really cool. I love them. He almost sings everything so melodic, right? It's just a pleasure to listen to him sing in this record. The
Oh, okay. Ronald Jones is the name of the guitar player. Sorry, he's not just
Okay,
the African American guy. Ronald Jones is his name. Amazing lead guitar player. He was
great guitars.
only on Transmissions, and this. Those are the only 2 albums he played
The song titles in this one are very wacky.
on.
Um, Psychiatric Exploration of the Fetus with Needles. Great song, by the way. um, guy who got a headache and accidentally saves the world. Love that
Yeah.
track as well. One of my favorite ones and one of the
Lightning
catchier
Strikes the
songs.
Postman. What's that?
Yeah, that one, Lightning Strike the Postman. That's the one that I was gonna mention. Really fun song, great lyrics. I don't know what he was on when he was writing the songs in this record, but it was definitely he was doing something fun for sure.
Yeah, well, he's sober. That's the
Oh, is
funniest
he?
thing is the Flaming Lips seem like such druggy music, and then you find out that he doesn't take drugs.
Even back
Now,
then, he didn't do
Stephen
anything.
Drozd, no, and even back then, he never really did.
Oh
Now,
wow, okay.
Stephen Drozd, who was the drummer at the time,
Hmm.
and he ultimately now he's a multi-instrumentalist. He doesn't play drums anymore, but at the time he was the drummer, and he was becoming a junkie at this point. And
No,
that's the reason why Ronald left the band, was because he was just had a problem with, a guy who's a junkie in the band. And he cleaned himself up, but for a while at this point he was still just the drummer and Wayne was the primary guy, but now he's involved in the songwriting too.
overall a great record. I'm surprised that this one was one of their most popular ones.
Well, what happened was, after Transmissions, I think they got labeled as a one-hit wonder by some people too, like because of the
She don't
You
use
Don't Use
jelly.
Jelly, and they
Yeah,
thought, "Oh, just novelty song, these guys are a joke." And the next record didn't really do very well, and this was '95, and it wasn't until '99 when they had the first of their symphonic records. Oh, the Soft Bulletin. So, they did Clouds Taste Metallic in '95, and it didn't really do very well, and then they had that Zurika thing, which was the 4-disc set that you had to play all 4 CDs at the same time, and it was
yeah.
weird. And then came the Soft Bulletin and the new sound. And that's when they sort of revamped their sound. No
Hmm.
more guitars. Now they're doing the symphonic pop thing, and it was such a success that they never went back to their older sound. I mean, then Yoshimi came after that, and so um, I like this era. Like I said, those 3 albums, and even the one before that, which was In a Priest-Driven Ambulance, from 1989 or 90 or whatever. I would consider that part of a 4 album run
Yeah.
of amazingness.
But do they still
So
play songs from this first few albums live?
no,
No,
no, they don't
really.
play. I mean, that when I saw them 2 years ago, and granted, it was a Yoshimi tour. They're
Yeah,
playing the album, but then
yeah.
they come out for bonus or for encores. They did "She Don't Use Jelly."
Hmm.
That was the only song that predated the Soft Bulletin.
Yeah.
So that's it. They just pretend like the stuff doesn't exist.
All right, my number two of '95, Green Day, Insomniac, came out on Reprise Records. Uh, Follow up to their major album, Dookie. I always loved this record. Many people didn't like this record when it came out. I always
I
loved
didn't
it.
I didn't when it first came out. I thought Dookie was so unbelievable, and then
Mhm.
this was like just not
This
as
is
good.
the polar opposite of what
Right.
Dookie is.
It
It's
feels like
definitely
Brain Stew and this weirder,
it's
heavier
got
stuff
brain
in it.
stew. It's a lot darker. It's a lot heavier. It has stronger guitars, harder guitars. And I like that. I love that. It was more of a response of what Dookie was. Like so many people were criticizing them for being sellouts back then after Dookie came out. It was a response on everything. A
Well,
response
kinda
to
like In
their
Utero
scene,
was a response to Nevermind.
to Nevermind,
Right.
similar to that. So they were
Yeah.
going with something a little bit edgier, a little bit darker. The overall themes in the record are super dark. It's about insomnia from like the song Brain Stew. Um, there's a really killer song in this one called 86, which is one of the deeper cuts in the record, which is about them being banned from playing at the small club, punk club, where they grew up playing in Gilman Street in Berkeley. Um, uh, Very powerful song. It also has some great tracks. The opening track in this one is called Armitage Shanks. I don't know sure how you pronounce that song,
I don't know.
but it's a great opening track. They also played it at the VMAs. Fast-paced punk rock, very in your face, very visceral kind of album. It had a couple of singles in this one. Geek Stink Breath was one of the main single in this one. It had
Yeah.
a really cool music video, but again, it wasn't nearly as accessible or as melodic as Dookie was. Um, to me, this album is more about the deep cuts in the record. Songs like 86, Armitage Shanks, Stewart and the Avenue, Westbound Sign, Tightwad Hill, and like I mentioned before, 86. Great punk rock songs. Love this record. Loved everything about it.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's one of those ones. Initially, my response was, "I don't like it,"
mhm,
but I did kinda like when later albums came out, like Warning and stuff like that, I kinda went back to Insomniac and was like,
mhm.
"Why didn't I like this?" And it's like, I did like it a lot more. It was just Dookie was just so overtly poppy, and this
Yeah,
had a little bit less of the pop. It had a hard, like you said, a harder edge. It was darker lyrics, although they've never been like super up. I mean, the lyrics are kind of dark on almost a lot of the Green Day stuff, anyways. Even
yeah,
though it's very happy sounding, but
yeah.
if you take a deep dive, the words are not always super happy. But um, yeah, it's one of these albums that, like, okay, if I ranked my favorite Green Day records, probably wouldn't be ranked towards the top, but again, like the Jawbreaker, my initial reaction was super negative, and now
Mhm.
looking back on it, I'm like, I don't really understand why I didn't like it.
Yeah, it has some
Because this
really
is
cool
just a
songs in
good
it.
Green Day song. Yeah, I mean, and I don't think I hated it. I just thought like, well, Dookie was this like perfection album, and
Mhm,
then this is like, not as good.
mhm.
So that's how I looked at it. Not as like it's terrible or I hate it or whatever. It was just like, yeah, not quite as good as the last one. That
What I
was
like
how I
about
felt.
this record is that it was clearly a response to their prior record, a clearly response to their scene that turned their backs on them, right?
Right.
And they wrote some of in my opinion, some of the most powerful songs that they've ever written. I love the guitars. I love the dark aspect of it. But the melodies are still there. Like if you still listen to it carefully, you can hear some of the great melodies that Billy Joel does in this album. The singles didn't go very far on this record compared to Dookie. I think Brain Stew was the only minor hit in the radio. Brain Stew and Jaded, which are the two songs that kind of go together. Um, and I think maybe Walking Contradiction, which is the very last
Oh,
song
that's a
on the
great song.
album. It's like really fun song. It's probably the most accessible song out of the
That's
record.
probably my favorite on the record is that one.
And it also had a music video that was really cool. You could tell that they spent a lot of money on that music video. But yeah, I always had again a really soft spot for this record from Green Day. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was unique. It was dark. Apparently, the band members were doing a lot of drugs during this one, or they were in a very bad spot when they were recording this record. It is my favorite Green Day record.
Oh,
Out of
really?
all of them, it is one of my.
Wow.
It fluctuates, but I think this is my favorite Green Day record. It's not my number one of '95.
Yeah, that's well, hey, my number one, my favorite Sonic Youth record wasn't my number one of
Right?
1995 either. So
Yeah.
I understand. I can relate to that. Like I get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's time for our number ones. Let's start with my number one, Swerve Driver, Ejector Seat Reservation. This is the band's third record and their sort of lost album because this album did not get a proper release in the United States at the time. It was only released on Creation UK, and my CD is an import that I bought as an import at the time. And I think, Will, in the text, I told you that it was because Creation went broke. It's not that Creation went broke. I think what happened was they wanted Oasis so bad, and they couldn't get Creation to release Oasis. So Sony bought Creation Records lock, stock, and barrel, just bought the label and then fired everybody else, kept Oasis.
Really? Okay, that
So
makes a
when
lot
this
of
album
sense.
came out on
Mhm.
Creation, it was like, who gives a fuck? The
So
label did not care.
every other band that were in Creation, they were pretty much screwed,
Right.
including
And
Swerve Driver.
they didn't have a US distribution deal. They used to go through A&M, and
Mhm.
that's where the first two albums came out in America on A&M. This never got one. So it was just
Interesting.
an import, never heard. And it
Even
is,
nowadays, it hasn't come out in the
well,
US?
no, now you can find it domestically. I think
Okay.
there's a vinyl version you can get on their Bandcamp and you can stream it. But in terms of, yeah, it was just the lost album for them. And it's got like, I love Bring Me the Head of the Fortune Teller, The Other
Love that one.
Jesus,
Love, love, love
I
that
Am
song.
Superman,
Mhm.
Bubbling Up. How Does It Feel to Look Like Candy is great. I know you didn't care much for Last Day on Earth, but I love that
Now, I
song.
always wondered, how I'm always, curious about how bands and labels pick their singles for the record, because most times it works, but, I thought that they were a lot better and stronger
Well, I
songs in
thought
this
The Other
record.
Jesus should have been
Mhm.
one, maybe.
Yes, that one
Or
is a lot more accessible too, a little bit catchier, and the guitars are great in that one.
And How
Um,
Does It Feel to Look Like Candy is really catchy. They might have thought that was kinda corny lyrically, I don't know. I Am Superman is awesome. I mean,
yep,
I love this album, and it's okay, so Swerve Driver's first 2 albums, they used to get labeled as shoegaze,
yeah,
but it was like shoegaze mixed with Sonic Youth, so they never really they had a rock element that wasn't in a lot of shoegaze bands. That shoegaze is gone by this album.
that's what I was gonna say. Except with a couple of songs, most of that sound from shoegaze is gone in this record, but I think they still keep it with "Bring Me the Head of the Fortune Teller."
Yeah. I mean, it's just it's maybe an element of the sound still, but it's like very Brit poppy or
Mhm.
poppy or whatever. You know, if this had a proper release and the label gave a shit, maybe they
Yeah,
would have been competitors with like Oasis and Blur. But unfortunately, that just wasn't in the cards for Swerve Driver at this point in time. And nobody in the US heard this. So they had some bad luck. I mean,
or bad choices maybe.
I remember going to see them
Mhm.
in Minneapolis in probably in support of not this one, but 99th Dream. I drove up to Minneapolis. Their show got canceled because the 7th Street Entry was redoing their floors that day,
Mhm.
and they didn't give a shit about the Swerve Driver show, so they just canceled it. I found out once
Yeah.
I got there, I was so pissed. I was like, "You're cleaning the floors, and that's why there's no fucking show." I mean,
Jeez.
they had the worst luck back then.
Yeah, I bet. Um, I like the shoegaze sound from Swerve Driver a lot better than from this record, but I still like this record. Um,
Yeah, well, Mezcal Head is still my favorite of theirs.
Mescal Head, I was gonna say Mescal Head is definitely my favorite from Swerve Driver. I like that one and the one before I think is Race. Race, I
Yeah,
think
the
it's called.
first one, Raise, yeah.
I like those two better than this one, but I thought this was a really solid record. It has some excellent tracks. I like it how they have a little bit of a faster edge in some of the tracks, like in Fortune Teller. The other Jesus is just so catchy. It should have been a hit.
Yeah,
But they also slow it down really good in some of the tracks like Bubbling Up.
that's
And
a good one too. I love that song.
like you mentioned, I Am Superman, where he sings with kind of like this megaphone type of effect in the vocals. I thought it was a really cool effect. Um, and yeah, overall, a really solid record.
I
Like
mean,
I, like you said,
this was a band in transition into a new sound. I mean, they were moving into this new sound,
yeah,
and then unfortunately, the reaction was, "Who gives a shit?" Because the label didn't do anything with it, and it
yeah,
was just sort of lost.
yeah.
And so, whether it was a successful experiment or not, I mean, this happens to be Mescalhead's my favorite, but this would be my number 2 in
Mhm.
terms of the entire Swerve Driver catalog. So, okay, that's my number 1, Swerve Driver, Ejector Seat Reservation. Now
All
it's
right,
time
we'll move on to my
for
number
your
one
number 1,
album of the
and
year.
here
Punk
goes.
rock perfection, in my opinion. Rancid, and Out Come the Wolves.
Now,
It came
another
out.
surprise for me that was number 1 over Green Day.
Love this record. In my opinion, this is the perfect punk rock record from start to finish. No skips. 19 songs, 19 punk rock songs in this record at 50 minutes. Insane. It does slow down occasionally throughout the record. It does have a couple of slower tracks, but most of the tracks here are balls out punk rock songs, fast paced. This one is the second record with Lars Fredriksson, who sings and plays guitars in this record. So there's two singers in Rancid. There's Lars, who has a little bit more of a kind of like a rock and roll raspy voice, and then there's Tim Armstrong, who has more of a mellow voice in
Yeah.
his vocals. And I love the combination of those two types of vocals throughout the record. I think it's a perfect mix of
Well, this
punk
record
rock.
was so big, and they had
It was
MTV
huge.
and radio hits.
It
I
was
mean,
kind of like the
Roots
Offspring record that
Radical,
came out.
Time Bomb, Ruby Soho, all those songs
Yeah,
were fucking massive hits.
they were very big hits. I think they had three major hits: Roots Radicals, Ruby Soho,
Ruby
and
Soho,
yeah,
Time Bomb. I
Time
think Time
Bomb.
Bomb was a hit, yeah.
When I was trying to decide between my number one album of the year, I was trying to pick between this one and Insomniac from Green Day. But overall, I do think I like this one better. In most cases, I think it would be a tie, but I like this one better because it's more of a positive album. You know, a lot of the lyrics are about the Bay Area scene. They're about songs that tell a story about somebody from their childhood, somebody that grew up with them, and about that kind of brotherhood that they have, like in Journey to the End of the East Bay, and songs about other towns that they visited, like Olympia, Washington. I thought that those songs were amazingly catchy, great melodies, great performances from the band. This is my favorite Rancid record for sure, and it is known as one of the or as the most popular and commercially successful record from Rancid. I think after this one, they didn't become as successful commercially, but this one was for sure, which was surprising coming in from a label like Epitaph.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not gonna say I was a fan of Rancid back
I
in
didn't
the day,
expect you
'cause
to like this one very
yeah,
much because
I
coming in
wasn't,
from
but
Epitaph.
I mean, I heard the songs and I knew the hits. I mean, I don't
Mhm.
object to Ruby Soho or Time Bomb or whatever, but they do have a bit of a ska element
They
along with
do.
their punk sound.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I've never really cared much for
You didn't
ska.
like ska?
So you
Mm.
hear a little ska element, and for me, that just throws it off.
Well,
But
their previous band was all a full-on
Operation
ska
Ivy,
band,
yeah,
Operation
yeah.
Ivy. Mm.
And I know, and so many people were like, "Oh my god, they're the best," and I'm like, I haven't even heard it. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
I don't know Operation Ivy. I still have,
Mhm.
I'm familiar with it,
Yeah.
but I did like this album. Re-listening to it, I mean, the hits were great. Roots Radical and Time Bomb and whatever. I mean, they were songs I remembered, and even though I did not consider myself a Rancid fan, I was like, I can appreciate them now all these years later. I don't really care much for ska in general. Like that, just
Mhm.
the sound just doesn't do it for me. But
Mm.
um, bands that have that as an element, like say Fishbone has an element of ska
Yeah.
sometimes.
Mm.
Like it doesn't bother me if it's an element. And so this is only an element for Rancid. So I still
Mhm.
kind of liked it
Yeah.
more so than I did in the 90s.
Yeah.
But at the time, I this is just an album I just ignored.
Mhm.
I mean, I really just paid no attention to it. I assumed I didn't like it and that it wasn't for me. And I was just like, I thought they were a ska band, and I
Yeah.
was like, just not interested. No
That's what I
thanks.
assumed that it would be, like, it wouldn't be much in your radar. Um,
No, but I mean, you
but
couldn't help but know it. I mean, it was
yeah,
huge,
it was on MTV, and it had,
right?
like, a lot of really big hits in this record, And the record apparently is named because a lot of major labels were trying to get them into joining their labels. So they
Well,
were taking them out. And, you know, punk was very big back then, especially with the success from Green Day, The
Offspring.
Offspring.
Yeah.
So they were trying to get them into the major label. So everybody was taking them out, and they never moved on to a major label, except with one record that came out a few years after. Officially didn't come out in a major label, but it did have major label distribution. That's the only one.
Well,
I
it's
think it
kind of
was
like
called.
Out Come the Wolves is sort of like Pleased to Meet Me, which
Yeah,
with the
sort of like
replacement,
that.
where they were like everybody schmoozing them, and the whole thing was
Yeah,
sticking your
it had the
hand
picture
out
of
to
the
like
handshake,
shake your
right?
hand,
Yeah.
people, you know, shake someone's
Yeah.
hand, and it was like because they were always getting, and that's what they would say when somebody say, "Oh, pleased to meet you," and they would be like, "Oh, pleased to meet me." You know, they would revert it back like, "Yeah, you're pleased to meet me."
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good
Pretty
way of
similar.
putting it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Similar to
pretty
the
similar.
Replacements, Pleased to Meet Me. Apparently, the label from Madonna, Virgin Records, really wanted Rancid to join their label. So they even got to meet Madonna, I guess, at some point. Um, but they never did. They never officially went into a major label, which was like we were talking before about Jawbreaker, is that they did move on to a major label and they lost a lot of their older fans. Rancid, on the other hand, they were able to keep most of their older fans because of this, because they never went into a major label. So even nowadays, you know, you go to a Rancid show. They just opened for Green Day in their last tour. And you still see some of the older punk rock guys taking their kids to go see Rancid. They still
Guys with
love
mohawks.
Rancid. Yeah, they have they still have their mohawks or whatever is left over from them. Uh, but I still go see them, and they're a very loyal fan base to Rancid. But this
Yeah.
record blew me away when it came out. I was the right age when this record came out, and even nowadays, I still get a lot of nostalgia when I listen to it. But overall, number one album for sure. Rancid with An Outcome of the Wolves is my number one pick of 1995.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but great year though,
yeah.
1995. Like I said in the other video, narrowing it down to 10 was very, very hard. I couldn't
Mhm.
even fit Radiohead into my top 10. That's how tight this was. All right, another year in the can. We've done our best of.
So next year we'll
1995
do
was a great
hopefully
year.
96.
Yep. That's
I
another
can't think
good
of the top
year.
of my head
I can't think
which
of a
one.
ton from that year right off the top.
Yeah.
Like I said, I top of my head. I mean, Super Dragon, Not a Surf, I think had records that year. I don't know. Anyways,
Mm.
that's next year.
Mhm.
This is this year. So happy
Yeah.
holidays, happy
Yeah.
Merry
Happy holidays,
Christmas, happy
everybody.
Hanukkah, happy
Yeah.
Festivus, whatever you guys celebrate out there. Um, you'll be watching this while celebrating, I suppose.
Yeah. Right during
Nice
Christmas
treat.
time or the
Yeah.
holidays.
So,
So
all
thank you
right.
for watching.
Thanks a lot for watching,
See you
everybody.
next
See you
time.
next year.
Bye bye.